Hi, I'm singer-songwriter Maisy Kay. I'm currently on tour with Tori Kelly on her Purple Skies World Tour, and you're watching Pop Culture with Pat.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So I am so excited to be joined by today's guests. Today I'm going to be talking to singer-songwriter Maisy Kay, who she is currently on, or Tori Kelly. She just released her new single "Love Is a God," which is out now. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Maisy.
Hi, yeah, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
You are very welcome. So yeah, your latest single "Love Is a God" is officially out now. Just recently got released. Can you talk a little bit about the inspiration behind that track and just bringing that to life?
Yeah, so Love is a God for me, I really wanted to talk about what love as a concept means to me because I've always said love is a very powerful driving force in my life. And when I feel it, it's very all-encompassing. And the closest thing I can relate it to is some sort of a spiritual experience, almost like something that gives me purpose and drives me forward in life. So, Love is a God not only explores the depths of a relationship, but also, I think, talks about what love means to me as a concept.
And it's a great track. I got a chance to listen to it. It's one of my favorite of your recent songs that you released. So I can't wait to hear because I know you got your upcoming EP that's going to be releasing soon, like this fall. So I can't wait to hear what else is coming from you. So you released earlier this year. You released Wonderlust, The Dawn, and now you have The Dusk coming out. Where did that come from as far as just like overall? And can you just tell fans what they can kind of expect with the upcoming EP?
Yeah, so it wasn't actually an intentional choice to make an EP. I wrote all those songs just because I was really feeling the emotions in my personal life, and I felt like I had to talk about them. And once I'd written about eight or nine, it reached a point where I thought, oh, okay, these are quite good tracks, actually, some of them. Maybe I should show my team and do something with it. And I think I knew from the beginning I didn't want to do an album. So we decided on a two-part EP process. And I've been describing Wonderlust the Dusk as sort of a sister nighttime album to part one. So I think it is the same general storyline. Wonderlust is its own mini storyline of falling in love and what that love looks like. But I would say part two delves a little more into more of a long-term relationship as well as gives a little bit more edge and grit than part one does. Some of my older tracks are very dark and like heavy in that way, and I think there are elements of that in part two. So anyone that misses my older sounding stuff, I think may enjoy part two because there's little nods to that sort of dark moodiness that I do in my older stuff.
Well, it's been a nice little surprise for fans. Like you said, it was something that you weren't necessarily planning on releasing the material, and now fans get two extra projects from you to enjoy with some new music. So that's pretty cool.
It's awesome. And, no one expected me to write, I mean, me included, no one expected me to write an album essentially worth of love songs. Everyone was very surprised when that came out. They were like, "She's happy? What's going on?" Like that's so that was a nice surprise for everyone, just getting to release something that's so starkly different to all my past songs of like heartbreak and sadness. Like these EPs are very joyful, and that's really the only project I've had that looks like that. So that's cool.
And I'm sure, yeah, fans, I mean, they'll never say no to new material from you. So that's do you have like like I know it says like fall. Is there like a specific release date for the upcoming like EP or
So I will say there is another track that's going to come out from the EP first, as well as a video. So that will probably co-align with when the EP ends up coming out. But I would
Gotcha.
say, yeah, before the holidays, definitely.
Well, that would be nice heading into the holidays. And we talked about, you're on a tour with Tori Kelly. How did that kind of just happen for you, that opportunity come about, and what's that experience been like for you so far?
So the day I got the call about the tour offer, I was actually literally crying about how I hadn't booked a tour and how I felt like I was a loser and I wasn't going to be able to book anything for the rest of the year. And I was failing and I was like full on crying on the sofa to my boyfriend. I was like, I just feel like I'm not going to get any more opportunity, like full on crying. And then I got a phone call from my manager. So I'm like crying on the sofa. I'm like, I'm a failure. I'm like not going to go out on tour again this year. And then this call comes in. So I'm like, oh, hang on, give me 5 minutes. And then I pick up the phone and my manager's like, how would you like to open for Tori Kelly? Like literally right after I'd just been crying about feeling insecure about how I hadn't been able to book a tour. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm gonna like get a job this year. And that call came in right afterwards. So it feels very fated in that way. It was like literally you couldn't have timed that better.
Yeah.
And so far, I mean, oh, it's been lovely. It's been lovely. I mean, Tori's so sweet. Her team's really cool. It's been so nice and easy. Everyone's so easy to get along with, and she is such a talent on stage to witness. It's very honoring to get to open for such a talent like that.
The world works in mysterious ways when you really need something. And, just like you said, it was not even like a couple days. It was like within a couple
No,
minutes of that,
yeah.
happening. So that's pretty cool that you got to have that, right away. And now, like you said, the tour so far is going, really well for you guys. You've done like a couple, like is this like your second tour, I believe I thought I was like reading?
This is my second tour ever and my first ever world tour.
So, like, how do you prepare for, going on tours now that you've done a couple and this is like your first major one to just make sure that, fans get the best experience, but also that you have the best experience for yourself? Because, I mean, going on tour, it's a lot of work. You're out on the road for a long time. So, how do you just kind of prepare for these things?
So I work with a choreographer who helps me design my set in terms of all the movement. So I work with him, well, worked, I suppose, since now I'm doing it. But I worked with him, I would say 2 or 3 times a week, depending. And we'd just run the set and design the movements and run it through. And then I work with a vocal coach to make sure my voice is sounding strong. And then I go to the gym with a trainer to make sure I just semi stay strong, especially with the legs. You don't realize like how much of a workout being on stage actually is. I always forget, and now I've started up again. I'm like, oh my God, it really is like 30 minutes of aggressive cardio. So you need to make sure like your legs are strong. So yeah, gym, choreo, vocal training, and laying off my favorite food of all time, which is spicy food because I have acid reflux. And so I'm being good and backing off of my spice a little bit so I can protect my voice so it doesn't sound all croaky on stage, which is a big deal for me.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that makes sense. Like yeah, like I said, it's a lot that, goes into it. I mean, I've gone to a couple shows like recently and just sometimes just standing there in the audience, like I mean, it gives like your legs a workout. So I can only imagine you guys, going back and forth on the stage, performing obviously your vocals and everything. What are some must-haves for you that you have to have on tour that you can't go on the road without having?
I really love throat coat tea. I hate the taste of it, but it's like a special tea for singers. And I have that before every show just because I think it does help sort of open up the throat a little bit. And I do a little vocal warm up that my teacher made for me. It's like a 20-minute voice recording. I do that before every show religiously. I used to be one of those very naughty people who did not warm up at all before doing any sort of vocal thing. And now I'm realizing, oh, right, I should probably look after my voice a little better and protect it. So I've been really diligent at doing that every single show. And then we have a steamer, like a little face steamer. So you
Oh,
like
nice.
attach it to your face and you breathe in the steam. And that's apparently supposed to help a lot as well. I don't know whether it does, but I do that every show in the hopes it does. So
Yeah.
maybe it's working.
Sometimes it's even like even if it doesn't actually have like a physical, I guess, effect on you, sometimes it's even just like the mind over matter. It's like
Yeah,
where you think that it
absolutely.
is. So I mean, even if it's kind of putting you in that mindset, I mean that obviously, goes like a long way too. Reflecting on your career so far, what is something that you've learned along the way that you wish that you would have almost known when you were first starting out in your career?
Ooh, everyone is going to have an opinion of you and who they think you should be and what they think you should sound like. And you have to decide how much you want those opinions to impact you. I feel like that would have been helpful for especially teenage me who was really struggling with figuring that out. And I would look to so many different people to give me the answer on who am I? What is my sound? You, random person, tell me. You, member of my team, like tell me. I'm so dependent on your opinion and your approval. And I think in the last few years, I sort of stripped that back because it was stressing me out and draining me and making it stop being fun because I was so busy just trying to make a hit that what worked for me and what really brought back my enjoyment of music was just taking that away and going, well, what sort of music do I want to make? Who cares if it's going to go viral on TikTok or if it's going to get all the streams? Like, what do I want to do? And I guess I realized 2 years ago the answer was be a big fantasy butterfly lady and sing about my feelings. So that's what we do now. But I think that's what I wish I knew a few years ago. Like, I think I got really caught up in the trying to make stuff for other people and let them dictate who I was. And then I realized that wasn't working. And I also now felt sad and unsure of myself. So I think that is something I wish I could have done a bit differently.
But I mean, sometimes, yeah, I mean, that's hard too, especially like you said, at such a young age to kind of to know that. I guess it would help, yeah, hearing that from someone who's been in the industry for a while. Just, being true to yourself is always super important, and then you're going to be happy with, with the output because you don't feel like you're just putting on like a facade for, for other people. I love that. So like, looking at like your music and looking at like the different art that you've created, throughout your career. I love that you've incorporated your love of fantasy into like your art and your music. Where did that love, come from? Whether it's, like films, movies, books that you read, and what are some stuff that you've been like recently inspired by as far as like the fantasy genre goes?
Yeah, so I've always loved fantasy and fiction. I was an avid reader as a kid, and I grew up in the middle of the countryside with a really big garden. So I loved nature. I was always climbing trees. I was always rescuing snails and worms and making little sanctuaries for all the animals. Like I'm a big animal lover. So I think that definitely played a part in it. I've loved all things like Lord of the Rings, or like when I was 10, I became obsessed with the movie Avatar. And that was like my hyperfixation for a good year or two there. So I think it's always been in me, but the thing that really made me decide to bring it into my career, I think, was when I finally moved out and started living on my own. I wanted more pets because I love animals and I want to be around them more. They bring me joy. But obviously, I live in an apartment, so it's a bit tricky. So I was Googling like really low maintenance pets, and that is when I realized that I could raise butterflies on my balcony.
That's really cool.
So I started doing that, and I think the joy I got from that and being around the butterflies, something just sort of clicked into place for me, and I realized, oh, this is the thing. This is the thing. So I started raising butterflies. I still do. That's very true to me. So I think that is sort of the push I needed to bring it really heavily into my own career.
And speaking of Avatar, the world created by James Cameron, I have to ask you about your song "The Beast Within," which is inspired by the Na'vi language. Uh, how did that track come about, and what were some of the challenges in putting that together, where you're kind of switching back and forth between the different languages?
Yeah, so I was asked to do a project a few years ago, a full album in Na'vi. So The Beast Within is actually originally there's two versions of it. There's a fully English version and a fully Na'vi version. And there's 12 songs like that that are full English, and then the same 12 songs in full Na'vi. So I did that back in, I think, 2018, I want to say. And they were just sort of the project, what I was doing it for, it ended up falling through. So they ended up just being shelved, which was a shame because they were cool music. Obviously, way too different from my personal artistry to just really make a thing of it. They're very much like soundtrack, like it's in an alien language, it's a very specific type of sound, but someone on my team had decided that it was such a cool project and we had to do something with it. So they suggested we do a version where we combine the English and the Na'vi. So that's actually the end product of two separate songs where there's a version in full English and there's a version in full Na'vi. And we sort of combined the two for The Beast Within to make a releasable version, just for fun more than anything, because they're just all sitting there. There's so many great records just like sitting there essentially.
Well, I hope, I don't know if it, if it's possible just with like, record labels and stuff like that, if that's something that's able to be released in the future. Because I mean, I know I would love to hear those tracks, especially like the full, version in Navi. I think that would be really cool. And I mean, we got the upcoming like Avatar films too. So I mean, hey, James Cameron, reach out to Maisie. I would love to see some of these songs maybe like featured on, some of the upcoming films. Is that something, do you think, in the future that you would maybe be interested in doing, like revisiting again, or?
Yeah, without saying too much, yeah, I don't know what will happen there, but let's just say I met him many a time. I worked with his team on the album. He knows that the songs exist.
Okay. All right. Well, fingers crossed. I hope we
But
get to see
fingers crossed.
the light of day
Maybe one
someday.
day. That would be very cool because I'm very proud of that project. Yeah.
That would be awesome. And so I also read that, that you design all of the work, the artwork for like your EP covers and have your own line like on your web store, like obviously. Can you talk about the decision to do that for yourself? Because I mean, it'd be very easy just to have someone else, do like the artwork and stuff like that, where you worked on the musical aspect of it. Can you talk about the decision to do that and why that was important for yourself to do the own art yourself?
Yeah, so I work with a lovely team that really helps bring my visions to life because I am no digital artist. I have ideas, but the actual execution, not my strong suit. But in terms of the art and the creative, I always knew that I wanted to be involved in every step of it. I'm a very creative person. I love to draw and paint, and I have a lot of ideas at all times. I'm very good at the idea stage. So for me, like designing the artwork and the merch and things like that is a really fun, exciting part of the job for me and something that brings me a lot of joy. And I almost feel like those are other avenues to sort of play into the fantasy element and sort of help build that world of something a little bit larger than life and a little bit, exciting and different from reality in its own way, just something a little whimsical. I feel like those play really important parts to create that imagery. And the most authentic way to do that is if I'm heavily involved in it. So I have a lot of fun doing it. I love designing merch. I love getting to like pick a picture. The actual the actual EP artwork for Wonderlust is years old. That's a picture that just got shelved. And when we decided on Wonderlust, I thought this is the picture. Now I know what we've been saving this picture for. It's for this EP. So that was really cool.
Yeah, you never know when you're working on something. It's like it might not be necessarily what you need right at the moment, but it could pop up years later. So that's really cool. And it's nice, I'm sure, for your fans too, to just know that you're so heavily involved in that creative aspect of that, part of the process too, just getting some of that merch and know that you had a heavy input in creating some of that stuff. And speaking of the creative process too, I mean, years now into your career, how has your creative process changed for you when it comes to making music over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to have. I think you learn so much from different things you experience in this industry that I just wouldn't have without doing it. Like all the different co-writing sessions I went to, even if me and the writer weren't necessarily a fix, like there's still things you learn from being in that room and things you take from other more experienced writers. So I think just my being around many talented writers influenced my ability to write by myself. And also just touring influences how you write too, because then there's a new element of how will this sound live? How will this translate to live? And until you really go on a tour and play those songs on a larger scale, that's not necessarily something you're actively thinking about. At least it wasn't for me before I did that. So I honestly think I needed the Jake tour to even to even write some of the songs I've written now because I think without that experience I just wouldn't have been in the same mindset.
Yeah.
So I think yeah, I'm a collection of everything I've learned from being fortunate enough to be surrounded by very talented people.
Well, just to wrap things up for you, Maisie, is there anything else that you would like to say about, your upcoming music, the upcoming tours that you're going on, or just anything that you'd like to say to the fans in general?
Yeah, I'd like to give a huge support to everyone that listens to my music. A huge thank you. The support means the world. I truly couldn't be here without every single person that decides to come see a show or stream a song. And I could not be more grateful. And I hope some people get to come out to see the tour. I hope if they see me, they say hello. I love to meet everyone. I love to say hi. And yeah, just so much love to all my fans for the years of support.
And I'll make sure to put like your socials down below in the description so that way people can give you a follow, along with your journey. And I just want to say thank you, Maisie, again, so much for your time today. It was really nice, talking to you, getting to know you about your creative process. Good luck on the rest of the tour, and can't wait to hear more of the music coming out from soon from you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Super excited for the new releases. Hi, I'm singer-songwriter Maisy Kay. I'm currently on tour with Tori Kelly on her Purple Skies World Tour, and you're watching Pop Culture with Pat.